agility ladder. So what we're going to look at now is using an agility ladder for training our footwork. Now this is a great tool to help you build up coordination and footwork, rhythm and speed using an implement like this agility ladder. Now I'll lay this out fully. We have squares here, and we'll go through some patterns and some different rhythms in a minute. But if you don't have an agility ladder, this is very easily done. You can draw some squares on the ground with chalk, say on cement, and you can easily do very, very similar things here. Now with an agility ladder, this is great. Look, if you have 2 left feet, this is how you start to build up coordination with your feet. Because these drills, not necessarily are they applicable to footwork and fighting and self-defense, but they're just drills to become much more efficient with your footwork, and it's going to help train your coordination, which is a big thing with your feet, but also your proprioception, where your feet are in space on the ground. It's going to help with your balance, your agility, and it's going to build stability. I mean, you're going to be on your ankles and calves here. It's going to help build stability in these motions, as well as going to help with your awareness of your distancing as well. Where you put your foot here will change what you can and can't do with your directions. So these are great drills. There's all different types here. We're going to have drills that are speed drills, where they're more simple footwork and allow you to go fast. And we're going to have some footwork drills that can get actually quite complex, and they're not meant to be done fast. It will take lots of repetition. The complex ones are just to build those neuron connections with coordinating with your feet and be in control of your footwork. They're not necessarily done to be fast, but you can practice them a lot to get faster at them. As you can see here, we've got the agility ladder out in front of us here. And so I'm going to talk about a couple of things about doing these different types of footwork patterns using an agility ladder or anything similar. So what we're going to be doing here is I'm going to run through quite a few, but these are just basically patterns. So what I teach is just going to be patterns are small, and these are in short bite-sized chunks of just small patterns that you repeat with your feet, and basically you just keep repeating the same pattern in one full run on the ladder here. When we're doing these patterns, we typically go in a zigzag pattern. So zigzag meaning, if you just follow me to the ladder here, a zigzag is usually we're going to go through here, and we're going to work our way left to right, always increasing forward in a zigzag pattern. And typically for most of them, when we go forward, so this is forwards, front to back, we can also do an agility ladder sideways as well. So if you just follow me to the edge here, we've also got front to back in a zigzag. So I can start to be doing footwork motions here, front to back here, and you can see I'm zigzagging again through this agility ladder but going sideways. So that's another thing that we'll have a look at later. When you're doing these patterns for your footwork, start slow. Do not get this pat and start to dial it up to 100 straight away. Really start slow. Some of these are a little bit easier. You might be able to pick it up a bit quicker. Some of these are quite complex, and so you really have to start slow, especially if you're not quite coordinated with your feet. So start slow, and then you can start to build up the speed. As I mentioned before, some of these are not meant to be done fast, but you can start to build up the speed once you get a little bit more coordination with it. When you're doing these patterns, it's okay to say these patterns out loud. So that will help you keep your feet in track and in sync on what you're supposed to be doing with each foot placement. So no problem saying these out loud. Eventually you can just internalize these, but I still recommend going through this pattern, repeating the pattern in your head, just to help keep you tracking the patterns. So when you're running through these footwork patterns and these footwork drills, it's important, you've got to stay on the balls of your feet. So basically here you want to stay onto the balls of your feet. That makes you a lot lighter, makes you much more agile here, and so be able to move your feet easier and quicker. So balls of your feet, you don't want to be stepping with the flats of your foot here. It's in the balls of your foot. Also, when you're placing your feet, with the balls of your feet, you want to be wary of where you're placing your foot, as in for distancing. So if I take a step that's too wide, it's going to take me a lot bigger effort and harder to use the other foot to continue the pattern, because I have to step a big motion back. So when you're doing your stepping, you want to keep it small, tight steps, so you're able to do all these different types of patterns. And finally, important piece of advice here is look at your feet. Because you are stepping in certain squares and they have to be in and out, or the next square or out on the right, we're having to put our foot in specific positions. Well, you need to look down to make sure your feet are going in those specific areas. I mean, in real life, when you're moving your foot, you don't have to be so precise with your footwork. But here, because we are doing a certain pattern into certain areas, look at your feet the whole time. It is not a problem.